All right, let's take a quick check of the markets before we head on further. Well, we can see that the Sensex is now flat in the green at this point of time. Even Nifty is flat and just about flat in the green above that 24,300 mark at this point of time as well. So yes, we saw a good run for the markets in the initial session, but now it has cooled off from its day's high and it is trading flat in the green. But moving on, let's move on to our next fundamental guest for the show. We have Aditya Khemka of InCred Asset Management. Aditya, good morning. So good to have you on the show. Aditya, let me start off. Markets have corrected quite a bit from September. So do you believe that the fraud that everybody has been talking about, that has dissipated away, or can we expect a further downside from here on?
Yeah, so our perspective is, look, markets are trading at still a premium valuations to their historical averages, and earning growth is not really in line with historical averages. Earning growth has been below historical averages. When that happens, you should expect the market to be sideways till the earning growth picks up, and we believe that will take another 2 quarters.
What do you expect from the RBI to go from here on? Because we have the faltering growth on one hand, strengthening dollar on the other. What can we expect from the upcoming MPC meeting this week?
So from an RBI standpoint, I feel the most important number that they would be looking at is the inflation number. And when we look at the inflation data, it doesn't give us much confidence that RBI is going to cut rates at this point in time. So we are probably going to see a sort of hold on situation at RBI. And that should be okay with banks, because banks really don't want RBI to cut rates aggressively at this point, because there is a deposit war ongoing, and banks would like the rates to be slightly higher so that banks can increase deposit rates and try to garner more deposits so that they can have some loan growth. So I don't think RBI will try to cut rates at this juncture.
All right. Let's talk about broader end of the markets. How are you looking at the valuations on the broader end of the markets? Do you think that we are still seeing pockets which are trading at 50 times their earnings, or do you believe that the recent sell-off has provided some breather?
So look, markets have got several pockets now. We have 5,500 stocks listed on the exchanges. So it becomes slightly difficult to paint everything with the same brush. But broadly speaking, I would say that markets continue to be expensive. Multiples are still at a premium to historical averages. Earning growth is not at historical averages. But having said that, there are pockets like consumption, I feel, which have become extraordinarily cheap. And there are pockets like certain healthcare stocks which have become extraordinarily cheap, certain auto stocks which have become extraordinarily cheap. So these can give you a decent return if you have a holding horizon of more than 1 or 2 years. That's when, when these parameters pick up in terms of earnings growth and consumption, you will see significant earnings growth and multiple re-rating in these stocks.
Okay, all right. You talked about consumption, what about how does the urban consumption look like? Because that has been making the headlines that, the urban consumption is taking a slowdown. So how do we see at that front?
Sorry, what consumption did you ask about?
Urban consumption. Urban consumption has been slowing down. That is making quite a bit of headlines. So how do we see that? How does the consumption basket tackle that?
Yeah, look, so I think the urban consumption, so let's break out urban consumption into 2 parts. There is premium and non-premium, or rather mass. Premium consumption is doing well. It has been doing well for the past 3 years, and we don't expect any slowdown in premium consumption. So the the SUVs selling, the HVAC selling, the Rolex watches, the Mercedes cars. I think those kind of products and goods, which are premium segment products and goods, will continue to sell at a decent pace, because the higher end of the population, which have higher per capita income, continue to grow their income and their wealth thanks to capital markets and thanks to just the way our economy is designed as of now. But the mass consumption within the urban markets, let's say QSRs, let's say retail, apparel retail, I think that's a space where the earning growth is still a problem, the same store sales growth is still a problem. And I feel that after maybe 2 or 3 quarters, you might start seeing some uptick there. And these are the kind of stocks which we really like to own at this point in time, because the multiples are at all-time lows. So that helps an investor, because when earnings recover, multiples also recover. And as an investor, that's your bonanza. You get both multiple re-rating and earnings growth.
Okay. Now that we saw a disappointing second quarter performance, how do you expect, and we're standing at the last month of the third quarter, how do you expect the third quarter to fare? Can we expect a certain optimism to kick in for the third quarter?
I'm sorry, your voice is getting muffled again. I can't understand.
No, I'm asking about that. We did talk about, about consumption and how this urban consumption is also going to play out. I'm asking that, how the third quarter is going to fare after we saw a disappointing Q2 performance.
Sorry, I can't understand what you're asking.
All right, we'll try to take another question, but there is some technical glitch that we are facing at this point of time. But yes, we'll try to connect with him soon. But let's take a quick check of the markets. Of course, once again, the Sensex and Nifty, both of them have been trading flat in the green. We can see Adani Ports, SBI, HDFC Bank, Bajaj Finance, some of the top Sensex movers. Of course, ITC, Bharti Airtel, Power Grid, Sun Pharma, they are not doing well. ITC, of course, down about 2%. Most of the tobacco stocks, if we look at Godfrey Phillips or even VST Tellers, that has also not been doing well because of reports by CNBC indicating that they could be increasing the GST levy on these products, on tobacco and tobacco products. But let's try to connect with our guest once again and see. All right, I think there is some audio issue that we are still currently facing. But with that, we have come to an end of this edition of the Opening Bell. Don't go anywhere. We will be connecting at the closing bell at 3:30 p.m. We'll be discussing about how the market is developed, what the stocks are in focus. Until then, signing off. Do stay tuned to moneycontrol.com for all the news updates and market insights.